Well, now to those efforts to reach peace between Ukraine and Russia and a new Norwegian connection. President Trump and Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Störe meeting today at the White House called for the two sides to agree on a peace settlement. Trump said the U.S. is getting very close to a deal with Ukraine, and he said Norway could help end the war. He added that Washington is putting pressure on Russia, but when asked what concessions the Kremlin has made, Trump said the Russians offered to end the war and to stop trying to take all of Ukraine. All right, I want to pull in now Elisabeth Braw. She's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security in London. It's good to see you again. So the U.S. president says that Norway, a NATO member, a strong supporter of Ukraine, could help end the war. Do we know how?
Well, this is a very good idea. Norway is the country in the world that has really specialized in conflict resolution. I think we all remember the Oslo Accords, where the Norwegians managed to get Israel and the Palestinian side to agree to a peace deal where everybody else would have or had thought it was impossible. The Norwegians have also helped negotiate and reach some sort of agreement in countries like Colombia, Myanmar, the Philippines. And so their diplomats have immense experience in this very field. So they're not just a NATO partner. They're not just a supporter of Ukraine. They are the country in the world that has specialized the most in conflict resolution. So if they can be brought in to help this, I think that has some real potential.
And how do you think the other European countries should see this? I mean, there's obviously we've heard from a lot of leaders that they've been confused, maybe even miffed that the U.S. has not included them in peace talks from the beginning. How will they see Norway's role?
Well, it is a very messy situation at the moment, is it not? With the United States pursuing one set of negotiations or talks on its own with Russia and Ukraine, while America's European allies essentially try to conduct the second set of talks and negotiations, and that's what we saw with the peace summit in London just very recently. Mm-hmm. And so it's unclear just how Norway would fit into this. Would they be nominated, delegated by the Americans? Also, would they be accepted by the Russians, considering that they have supported Ukraine quite vocally and also financially and with weaponry? But if they can be, if an agreement can be reached between the United States and its NATO partners or its other Western partners, that Norway will represent them in these talks with Russia and Ukraine, there is potential. Because again, nobody does this better than Norwegian diplomats. And I think this is the lesson the Trump administration has learned from these talks, that conducting peace negotiations is not a matter for beginners. It requires real expertise and experience, and that's what the Norwegians have.
And considering this deadly attack that we saw on Kyiv overnight by Russia, I mean, how can we even be sure that Russia wants peace the way that is being implied by the U.S. president?
We cannot be sure that Russia wants peace, and Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin seem quite eager to signal that they'll carry on in their usual fashion, attacking Ukraine, even as peace negotiations, such as they are being conducted. And the strike during the Easter period and now again today is really, they are quite blatant. There was no military need to conduct those two strikes that claimed so many civilian lives. And one might ask what the whole point is of these strikes to begin with, other than to essentially signal that Russia listens to nobody. And that is quite a frightening place to be in. And that's what I think motivated President Trump's outraged and I think almost desperate sounding tweet where he said social media post where he said, stop. Vladimir, stop.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Let me ask you, if Ukraine were to agree to these terms, which has said it's not, but if it were to agree to, Crimea being under Russian control, eastern Ukraine being under Russian control, what would that mean for the rest of Europe and in European security?
It would be a terrible blow to any sort of international rules. And the first thing to say is that President Zelensky and his government are not in a position to agree to Crimea being accepted as Russian territory. That would have to, according to the Ukrainian constitution, that would be accepted in a vote, in the referendum by the people of Ukraine. So the Ukrainian government cannot agree to that. Then as for the other territories, if the Ukrainian government were to accept it, it would be a terrible blow and an unacceptable blow to an innocent, which is why they are not going to agree to it.
Okay. Elisabeth Braw with the Atlantic Council in London. As always, Elisabeth, we appreciate your time and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.